You may have heard this idea that working out smarter, not harder, is the way you need to be going with your workouts in order to make them sustainable and in order to make sure you can keep coming back to them. But the truth of the matter is working out smarter is not enough. It's not enough for your health and is not enough for you to get the results that you're wanting. On this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, we're going to be diving into why that is and what you need to do about it. We're going to cue our introduction and we're going to dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset, and the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and today we're discussing this idea of smarter, not harder. What does that mean, and why is it a lie that's actually keeping you from getting the health and fitness results that you're wanting? But before we get into that, we have an ask for you and we have a gift.
That's right. If you've enjoyed our podcast for 2 seconds or for 5 years, we would love it if you would pause this episode now and leave us a rating and review. Ratings and review are the number one fuel for a podcast, and it lets all the podcasting platforms know that we are continuing to provide value and great content for you. So please leave us that rating and review. It'll only take you just a quick minute. Also, if you've been enjoying our content and you want to have the hands-on experience of what we talk about on this show all the time, we want to invite you to start a free membership. You can go to our website, www.exerciseforlifestudios.com, and there you can sign up for your 2-week free membership. You can try any of our programs out. You'll be working out with Charlie and I in each and every workout, and we can't wait to see you there.
All right, so today we're discussing this idea of smarter, not harder. And this is a really catchy phrase that a lot of people use, a lot of people who are exercising use, a lot of people who are trainers use, is like, hey, this is the idea of smarter, not harder. But Julie, I'm curious, like when you hear this idea of smarter, not harder, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to my mind is educated trainers like you and me. We have these phrases that we like to have, one of them being smarter, not harder, to show, I think, a lot of times like our education level, or like we're almost like in an exclusive club of like knowing the body, knowing joints, knowing machines and how to manipulate things. And I think this has a really great time and place, which we'll dive into more. But I think that oftentimes when I hear smarter, not harder, it's like a group of exercise people that are trying to be like next level of education, a little bit more educated on what exercise is or how to serve more and more people with it, or the technicalities behind exercise. What do you think of when it comes to smarter, not harder?
When I think of smarter, not harder, I think a lot of people like that phrasing, and it gives them kind of an out for not having to work out that hard under the veil of, well, I'm working out smart. And so we want to talk about both aspects today, the working out smart and the working out hard, and why they actually shouldn't be exclusive. And if they are exclusive of one another, the issues that can lead into. So if you are clinging on to this idea of, well, I work out smart, not hard, or smarter, not harder is my thing, want you to kind of hear us out on this, because it's really important that you're working out with both the smarter and the harder, not either or. And today that's what we're going to explain for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people catch on to this idea. Number one, it's an amazing phrase. It sounds good, and you'll remember it, right? So I think it catches on like that. But I think a lot of people, as with, I think, any types of workouts, many people have experienced what just doing too much in a workout has been. A lot of people have been exposed to exercise from a young age, and so they've brought what they learned in sports or high school into how they're exercising and training now in their 50s and 60s, which we know doesn't work because our bodies just can't tolerate stress as much. So we look for ways to take off the load or the challenge of the exercise. And I think one of those ways or phrases is saying, oh, well, it's okay because now I work out smarter, not harder. Because harder to a lot of people represents borderline injury or injury, right? It's like you're going towards the line of injury, or you already know you get injured if you work out hard. And this is an incredibly valid point because so many people get injured. But if you stop at that point where you say, great, that means I work out smarter and lighter, not harder, then you're going to be limiting the results in terms of changing your health when it comes to exercise. And so that's why today's topic is so important. We don't want you to not work out smart. We want you to work out smart. We just can't have that be an exchange for working out harder.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like within the general population, the people who start using the smarter, not harder mantra are ones who have experienced some kind of orthopedic issue or some kind of issue in the past. And so maybe they did used to work out hard, and then now all of a sudden that working out hard led to, like you're saying, some kind of injury, some kind of issue. And so now their mantra is, well, I'm working out smarter, not harder. And the problem with that, like you're saying, is, well, if you're not working out hard, then that leaves a lot from a results standpoint, as far as like strength, as far as, being able to build and maintain muscle, and as far as your health overall. The other problem is the idea of working out smarter, not harder, really is not that far removed from the idea of something is better than nothing. And that's a big problem, or that is a consistent trend that I see people go down is, well, they went from working out hard to then having issues. So now, I'm going to work out smarter, not harder. And then as they're working out, quote unquote, smarter, not harder, they are progressively doing a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less, because every time they do the harder, or, just trying to push themselves a little bit, then their body doesn't feel as well. And so now all of a sudden that mantra of smarter, not harder becomes, well, something is better than nothing. And so the standards that they're holding for themselves just continue to go down and down and down. And then they get to a point, 45, 50, 55, 60, where they look back and they say, well, I've been working out my entire life. Why do I feel so weak? I've been working out my entire life. Why do I have osteoporosis? I have been working out my entire life. Why am I having these issues coming up? And is because, in part, because these little kind of micro adjustments that were made along the way, as far as the standards that were being held, as far as the willingness to push themselves during their workouts, all in lieu of either smarter, not harder, and then eventually turning into, well, something is better than nothing.
That's right. As you're talking, Charlie, I was thinking of like this perfect example of a hypothetical situation, but you can see a lot of people would fall into this. So for example, I train a lot of women, and they're also highly educated, right? Like, we're all really educated, especially when it comes to health. The amount of information, whether it's good or not, given to us each and every day is really high. If you're on social media, you're getting information. If you watch the news, if you get any types of magazines, and they all seem to have some kind of health thing. So let's say that we're exercising, or let's say, I'm working with a client, and they'll come in and be like, oh, Julie, I read this article about back, about our spine, how to keep it strong, and that actually we really need to be careful of doing spine extensions. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So you feel like you've leveled up in the smarts, which is great. I love that you're getting educated, but it seems like every time we learn something new, then we feel like we take away the challenge, right? It's like in compromise of the challenge. And then so I'm like, sweet. And then I'm like, so I think we shouldn't do back extensions because it's the number one thing that hurts women's backs. And I'm like, okay, whoa. Okay, well, we can't not do back extensions. I mean, if you want to not do them, that's great. But I will never, in my professional, advice, I will never tell you to not do it, because now that area is completely vulnerable. Or if we do it lighter, now it's much more vulnerable than it would if we did it heavier. So here's the thing. When you get smarter about exercise, it is not a justifiable thing to say, well, because I'm smarter with it, now I get to work less hard at it, or I get to do less of it because it could cause injury. That's where the smart and the hard come together. You get smarter so you can work harder. But after we've been exposed to all these fear-based things, especially as, you hit your 50s, 60s and beyond, it's like, people shouldn't run. Oh, people should be careful of the bike because it could hurt your knees. Oh, people should be careful of jump squats. Oh, don't do any, low impact is the answer, not any high impact. It's all bad. And so what happens is, as we get more and more exposed to this fear-based marketing, is that we then exchange that new education for less challenge. And that is the big issue. We have to stay challenged. And what we mean by challenge is force on your body. A lot of times, a lot of my ladies will be like, well, I walked 3 miles and I was really tired at the end, so it was challenging. I'm like, no, it wasn't challenging. Anyone that walks 3 miles or the length of time for 3 miles, 50 minutes, they're going to be tired from standing that long. That's just length of time. But what we're talking about is force on your body. So we can't slide into this idea of the more educated or aware that I become, the less challenging I can make my workouts, because then it slides into the anything is better than nothing. And it's such a weird place. And I want to say it's weird because, number one, of course, anything is better than nothing. But you guys are here on our podcast getting educated all the time. And so we want to show you all these avenues so that you can actually be strategic and you don't have to fall back onto well, I just do something, or anything is better than nothing. And so we really have to lean on this smarter. Being smarter allows you to work harder. Not being smarter is my out for working harder.
Absolutely. So when it comes to results, remember there's 3 components that need to be in place. Number 1 is challenge to the body, challenge to the muscles, right? You have to be working your muscles. You have to be challenging your muscles. And yes, this can come from the amount of force that you're using, the amount of load that you're using. It can come from the amount of fatigue that your muscles are experiencing, the duration that they are doing something. All of this is challenge to your muscles, challenge to your body. But that challenge component needs to be there. Number 2 is you have to be able to recover from that challenge. So you can't just expect to do a challenging thing one time and then not, be able to recover from it and expect to get results. Like, you have to be able to recover from it so then you can go to step number 3, which is to repeat that challenge. All right. Again, you don't get to do the challenging thing one time and never repeat it and expect to get results. So here's the problem. Is for the longest time in the gym industry, the mantra of no pain, no gain was king, okay? Mantra of no pain, no gain was the thing that everybody, was predominant on people's thoughts. Oh, I need to push myself, and if it's hurting, great, because then that means that I'm going to get results. But that's really only looking at the first part of the equation, okay? That's step number 1, which is that challenge piece. If you're really challenging yourself, that's awesome. But if you're leaving out the next 2 steps, then that's no good, okay? Then the idea of smarter, not harder comes along, and it almost neglects part number 1 of the challenge and just focuses on part number 2 and 3. Okay, what can you recover from and what can you repeat? And while those are really important, you hear us talking about, hey, your workout today needs to set you up to come back and work out again tomorrow, everything like that, right? So that clearly is really important. But if you are still missing the challenge piece, then that too is not enough to get your results. So you have to be able to combine the 2 mindsets and be able to push yourself at a level that is really challenging for your body from a weight perspective, from a duration perspective, from, an intensity fatigue perspective. Okay. All of that is really important, but make sure that it's still within the realm of things that you can recover from within 24 hours, because then you have to come back and repeat that challenge again the next day. Now, it doesn't need to be the same workout, or, you need to, lift legs every day, or, go for your 5-mile run every single day or anything like that. But you still need to come back and repeat the idea of challenging your body in some manner the next day. That's the whole idea, is today's workout sets you up to come back and work out again, not 3 days from now, but tomorrow. Okay. So challenge your body, recover from the challenge, repeat the challenge. All 3 steps need to be in place. The first one, with just no pain, no gain, doesn't work long term. Just focusing on smarter, not harder, by focusing on those last 2, that doesn't work long term, because then you get to this place of, well, I've been doing this exercise thing for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Why am I continuously getting weaker? Why are my joints hurting? Why are all this stuff? Because we left out the challenge piece.
That's right. So when we think about it, just to sum up what Charlie says, we really want to think about challenging our bodies, recovering from that challenge, and repeating it. Everyone knows you can't go to the gym one time, do legs one day, do 5 squats, and have all the results from squats in the world that you ever wanted, right? You have to repeat it. And the only way that you are changing your body is if you're actually challenging your body. So this is where the challenge. Okay. Oh, wait. I want to jump back. So when Charlie's saying that no pain, no gain, so we also agree you shouldn't have like this, we shouldn't only cling on to this idea of no pain, no gain. And if you've been here, you know what we're talking about. We're not saying you should, have joint pain, zinging, something in your body telling you shouldn't. But there is a lot of people find that when they exercise, the discomfort of exercise, of muscle contraction, that burning feeling, the discomfort of being challenged, like a lot of I think our psyche, our brains, not that I'm a professional at this, they're looking for ease, right? We're not looking to be challenged in our life ever. But so it is uncomfortable to be at the gym and go through a challenging workout. And we're not saying you should injure yourself, but we are saying you need to challenge that muscle contraction. But this is where we blend. When you are in a high challenge situation, which we know you need that big challenge, you have to be smart about it. But it's not an exchange, right? So we keep coming back to this. It's like when you are challenging your body, you're working in the gym, you're working in your workout, you're challenging your body, it needs to be smart so that it's easy to recover and easy to repeat. What we found, what a lot of people like kind of tisk about old school fitness is that they feel like what they're representing with no pain, no gain is like, challenge yourself in a workout. Don't even overthink it. Just do it. And then it's really hard to recover from. And then you repeat it even though you're not recovered. And then it's like this whole cyclical lifestyle of borderline injury. And then you know the picture I'm talking about. So here's how we blend the high challenge so that your body will change and the smarts. That's where we bring in the 4 Exercise for Life principles. Now, a lot of times people are like, well, Julie and Charlie, I love the 4 Exercise for Life principles. I do them all the time, and that's why my workouts are never hard. This is the podcast for you. The 4 Exercise for Life principles, which we'll briefly review, are strictly in place so that you can consistently challenge your body at a high amount and dramatically limit injury. That is the whole point. Exactly.
And so what we're really promoting today is this idea of transitioning from no pain, no gain, from smarter, not harder into exercise for life. And the way you go about doing that is, like Julie's saying, with the 4 Exercise for Life principles. So the first Exercise for Life principle is to make sure you're using your symptom-free full range of motion. Okay? Yes, you want to be able to move as much as you can move, but making sure that 1, it's right for your body, and 2, it's symptom-free. No pinching, no pain, no popping, no zinging, no stretching feeling. The only things you should be feeling are your muscles squeezing and contracting, and then eventually your muscles fatiguing. That's it, all right? That contraction and that fatigue, that's the only thing you should be feeling when you're staying within your full symptom-free range of motion. So that's Exercise for Life principle number 1.
That's right. So exercise principle number 2 is going to be control your moving and non-moving parts. If we were to like do a blanket statement, we would call this your form. So like be precise about your form, but we hate the word form because form means everyone should look alike when they do a squat. Everyone should look alike when they do a push-up or whatever it is. But we know that everyone's bodies and everyone's limitations are different, and everyone's like gifts or talents or what you're good at are different, right? And so here's the thing. When you start an exercise, think about what area am I moving? And think about what area or areas am I not moving? And as you do your set, as you do your reps, you keep those consistent. So if you're doing bicep curls, you're like, great, my elbows are moving. The rest of my body, not moving. So the whole time you're saying elbows move, rest of my body, not move. And you keep those consistent. So for example, a lot of times we see people doing bicep curls and they're like, great, my elbows are moving. And by the end, because my biceps are now tired and fatigued, now it's a full body thrust to get the bicep curls up. So remember, Exercise for Life principle number 2 is to control your moving and non-moving parts. So we would say, hey, if you have to start thrusting your body just to get your dumbbells up, then the set's over. You're done. The muscles are done. They're fatigued. They can't do another perfect rep.
Absolutely. Exercise for Life principle number 3 is to move slowly. And a lot of times we think about this as a tempo thing or a speed thing. We'll say, well, how slow is slow? But what we're really talking about here is a control thing, meaning move at a pace that you can stop at a moment's notice. notice. So if anything were to start to feel weird or different within your body for any reason, you need to stop that motion that you're doing. You are moving with enough control and at a speed that you can immediately stop. Okay. And that way you don't have to, finish out the rep or finish out the set or, wait until the end of your workout to start noticing, oh yeah, my body's not feeling that good. You can make those changes immediately in real time, changing how you're doing the exercise. And so moving slowly really is a big component. Also from a challenge perspective, moving slowly is going to be a really big component, because the faster you move, the more likely you are going to be to use momentum in order to create the motion. And so that's going to be assisting you. And if we're talking about wanting to really challenge your muscles and challenge your body, we don't want that much stuff assisting us, especially, when if our bodies are fresher, we're earlier in the workout and stuff like that. As we start to fatigue, there might be some times where you can play with that a little bit, but the bottom line is really, the overarching concept, I should say, really is to make sure that you are moving slowly while you're doing your resistance training.
That's right. And the last exercise for life principle is to focus on your muscle squeeze. Now, this is a weird one because a lot of times we never talk about focus. Like, we've probably heard about form or pacing or tempo or checking your range of motion, but a lot of times we're never really taught what to focus on. And in fact, a lot of us are like, well, just put your Netflix show on and watch your Netflix while you exercise. What we really want you to think about is the muscles that you're squeezing while you're doing your exercise. We know that when you think about your muscle squeezing, you actually contract those muscles more than if you were to think about counting reps or think about the dude next to you working out or whatever it is. So make sure you're focusing in on the muscle squeeze. It's also a really great way to be mindful of when your body's giving you signals that it's all done, or it's saying, there's an issue that's arising. It's a really great way to be really in tuned to your workout instead of tuned out of your workout. So the last exercise for life principle is going to be focusing on the muscle squeeze.
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about how can we work out in a way that is sustainable for our bodies, that we're able to keep coming back to, but ultimately gets us results, no pain, no gain is not the answer. Smarter, not harder really is not the answer. What we need to transition from both of those is into exercise for life. And that's where these 4 exercise for life principles really come into play, because when you can adhere to the 4 exercise for life principles, now all of a sudden you have the golden ticket to push yourself really hard during your workouts, and you're still going to remain safe. You're going to remain with a very low likelihood that you end up injuring yourself, because you're adhering to every single one of these 4 exercise for life principles. So if you are interested in learning more about these 4 exercise for life principles and really getting guidance on how to implement them within each of your workouts, that's exactly what we teach you in the Exercise for Life membership. Julie and I do these workouts with you in real time, always cueing you back to the 4 exercise for life principles. So it just becomes the thing that you do when you go and work out. It's no longer something that you're consciously having to think about, every single second of your workout. You're like, okay, cool. Yeah, I know that I'm going to stay within my symptom-free range of motion. I know I'm going to be controlling my moving and non-moving segments. I know that I'm going to be moving slowly, and my focus is going to be on squeezing my muscles. That becomes your default way of exercising, because we're guiding you every step of the way, helping you to do just that. So if you'd like to join us for those workouts, all you have to do to get started is go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com. Like Julie said, we are offering you a 14-day free trial, so you can give it a shot, see how you like it, and if you don't like it, no worries. You can cancel right from your members area. But if you are wanting some guidance, if you are wanting the implementation of this, that is the single best way to help get to be able to do it from the convenience of your own home, whenever you're wanting. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is really stuck on this idea of working out smarter, not harder, but they feel like they're not getting the results that they're wanting? Share this episode with them so they can understand that there's a step beyond smarter, not harder that they need to make sure they're including with their workouts, and that is exercise for life. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.